I was assigned to this post 6 months ago as part of a routine redistribution. Nothing prestigious, nothing dangerous. Outer security detail, transit oversight, perimeter presence. It was the kind of duty veterans try to hold on to. No crowd control, no inner city pacification. That work is messy. Too many civilians, too many voices, too many moments where you're yelling at people who are already afraid, and every once in a while someone snaps and gets themselves shot because no one knew how to stop it in time. Out here was quieter. We watched roads, checked cargo, logged movement. The jungle kept its distance and the city kept its shape. My squad was easy to work with. We shared meals, traded ration packs, complained about the heat and the dust like it mattered. Jokes came easily. Sleep came easier. It felt like a place you could finish a tour without losing anything important. That's why the reports stood out when they started arriving. Not invasions, not attacks. Reports. Isolated incidents from the outskirts, the kind command prefers to categorize as noise until the noise becomes too loud to ignore. Missing patrols. Listening posts gone silent without distress calls. Freight convoys found burned out along jungle roads, their cargo torn open and left where it fell, as if whoever had done it lost interest halfway through. Survivors, when there were any, spoke too quickly and never the same way twice. Green shapes, laughter, crude weapons that shouldn't have worked as well as they did. We prepared anyway. Barricades went up along the outer avenues. Munitorum stockpiles were dragged out of sealed storage, crates cracked open that hadn't seen light in years. Firing lanes were marked, cleared, measured twice. Our assignment was simple: secure the transit artery feeding the industrial sector. Nothing in, nothing out. If the city had to be cut, this was where you put the blade. The men weren't worried. That worried me more than I admitted. They joked about orcs like everyone does. Big targets, loud mouths, dumb as rocks. A few of them were restless in the way soldiers get when nothing happens for too long, itching to finally shoot something that shoots back. Someone said it would be good for morale. Someone else laughed and said, "Greenskins don't even feel fear." That part was meant to be comforting. I was confident too. I think that matters. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't praying. I checked my rifle, checked my sight lines, did what I'd been trained to do. The city still worked. Markets opened. Cargo haulers ran on schedule. Civilians complained about checkpoints and curfews like they always did. You could almost believe the reports were exaggerations. Almost. I kept a pic of my wife in my chest pocket. Creased at the edges, colors fading. I'd look at it when I couldn't sleep. Not because I thought I'd die, but because thinking about going home made everything feel ordered, temporary. Like this was just another rotation that would end the way rotations always do. 3 days before the fighting started, I saw something fall from the sky. I was on overwatch near the eastern edge, jungle pressing close to the ferrocrete like it wanted the city back inch by inch. The sky flashed briefly, a streak cutting through the clouds at a shallow angle. I thought it was a meteor at first. That's what my mind reached for, natural, harmless. Then I noticed the color. A green glow threading through the tail, too steady, too deliberate. It vanished into the tree line without a sound, but the light lingered for a few seconds after, pulsing once before fading. Meteors don't do that. I logged it. So did 2 others on nearby posts. Nothing came of it. Later that day, I skimmed a data slate that hadn't been meant for us. A misfiled briefing, half redacted. Grainy pics pulled from auspex sweeps and helmet cams. Orks, up close. Not the caricatures you see on training slides. Thick with muscle, shoulders hunched forward like predators built to lean into violence. Arms corded and scarred, bodies layered with old wounds that had healed wrong and didn't seem to matter. One image lingered longer than the rest. An orc standing still, looking straight at the lens. Not charging, not roaring, just watching. I closed the file and didn't mention it. That night, something far out in the jungle started making noise. Metal striking metal. Slow at first, then faster. Not random, rhythmic. Like someone testing how loud the world could be before it answered back. I lay awake listening to it, fingers resting on my rifle, thinking of the green light in the sky and the picture in my pocket, and telling myself the same thing everyone else was saying. They're just orcs. I was on duty when I saw the first one, not charging, not hiding, just there. It stepped out into the open from between two hab blocks like it had taken a wrong turn and found itself somewhere interesting. A mountain of muscle and scar tissue, hunched forward, skin stretched tight over meat that looked grown for violence alone. Its armor was a joke made of scrap, bolted plates and broken signs, bits of the city hammered into something it called protection. Its face was worse. Wide mouth, uneven teeth, eyes too bright. It had the expression of someone you'd see behind glass in an asylum, unfocused, delighted. I think it was laughing. It didn't frighten me at first. That's the part I keep coming back to. I remember thinking this was exactly what the briefings described, a stupid creature. Who else would walk into a firing lane without cover, without fear, without even lifting its weapon? Someone fired. The shot hit it high in the arm. The limb came away in a spray of burned meat and clattered onto the pavement like dropped equipment. The orc froze. I thought, for a moment, that it was shock, maybe pain. It stared at the stump like it was trying to understand where something had gone. Then it laughed. Not a scream, not rage. Laughter so violent it bent forward, shoulders shaking, blood pouring down its side. It straightened and kept walking toward us, swinging its gun one-handed like the weight no longer mattered. That's when something cold settled in my chest. More of them appeared, not all at once. Drifting in from side streets, pulling themselves up from drainage channels. Dropping from rooftops they had no right to reach. They shouted constantly, taunting each other, daring one another forward, arguing about who would get there first. It sounded stupid. It sounded wrong. Like a crowd that didn't understand what fear was for. We opened fire. Lasguns cracked and howled. The street filled with light and smoke and the sharp stench of overheated power packs. Orcs fell hard, bodies dropping like sacks of wet sand. It worked. That mattered. But it didn't stop them. They climbed over their dead without slowing. One came apart under sustained fire and still managed 2 more steps before collapsing. Another lost an arm and used what was left to smash a man to the ground until nothing moved. Somewhere down the avenue, I caught sight of something bigger moving between the buildings. A shape made of scrap and smoke and motion. Wheels maybe, treads maybe. A vehicle, if that word still applied. It crawled forward like a pile of junk that had decided to be alive, orcs clinging to it, firing wildly, laughing as rounds sparked off walls and pavement. The firing never really stopped after that. Hundreds of shots, thousands. My ears rang until the sound flattened into something distant and unreal. I lost count of how many times I reloaded. The barrel of my rifle glowed faintly, heat bleeding through the grip. My hands ached. My jaw hurt from clenching it. I glanced sideways for a second. My brothers were still firing. Some were screaming as they shot, voices torn raw. Some were silent, faces locked, eyes wide and fixed on the oncoming mass. I don't know what my own face looked like. I don't know what I felt. There wasn't time to decide. The orcs kept coming, like a wave that doesn't care what it breaks against, some bigger than the rest. Some smaller, faster, darting through gaps. All of them moving forward, not aiming so much as advancing, swinging their guns like clubs when they got close enough. A civilian broke from cover and ran straight toward us, screaming something I couldn't hear. He made it 3 steps before an orc stepped on him without looking. There was a sound. Then there wasn't anything left to run. That was when it finally became clear. This wasn't a raid. This wasn't a probing attack. This was something that had been building for a long time, and we had only just stepped into its path. By the time the armor reached us, we had been fighting for days, Not one long battle. Waves, surges, hours of firing broken by minutes of quiet that never really felt quiet. We dropped them by the dozens, by the hundreds. The street in front of us disappeared beneath bodies and wreckage and burned out scrap. The laughter never stopped. It carried over everything. Every time I heard it, something tight twisted in my chest, a cold line running up my spine like a warning I couldn't ignore. My brothers held the line. We shouldn't have, but we did. At some point the pressure eased. Not enough to call it calm, but enough that I noticed my hands shaking. The Orks were still there, still firing, still shouting, but the forward push slowed. Someone shouted that we might actually be breaking them, that they were finally losing momentum. I believed it. I even took my helmet off long enough to eat. A ration bar, half crushed, tasted like ash and oil. One of the men, I can't remember his name now, took my position for a minute while I chewed. I remember thinking how normal that felt, how wrong that should have felt. Then the scream came. It wasn't close, and it wasn't human. It rolled down the avenue like thunder, deep enough that I felt it vibrate through the tin cup in my hand. I dropped it without thinking, snatched up my lasgun, and looked downrange. That was when I saw him. He stood out even among them, bigger, broader, armored in layered plates hammered together into something that looked almost intentional. Trophies hung from him, clattering as he moved. He didn't thrash or charge. He advanced with purpose, crushing through the press of bodies like they weren't there. A war boss. The word didn't come from training. It came from instinct, from the certainty that if he reached us, we would die. I watched him seize a guardsman and tear him in half like breaking a stick, toss the pieces aside without slowing. Then he vanished into smoke and bodies, swallowed by the crowd. But the space he left behind stayed heavy, like pressure after an explosion. After that, the Orks changed. They stopped fighting each other. The noise shifted. The laughter fell into rhythm, rising and falling together. A chant started, crude and pounding, beaten out with boots and gun stocks. They began to move with intent, pushing faster, harder, forcing us back meter by meter. Command screamed for reinforcements. Tanks answered. Lehman Russ battle tanks rolled into the kill zone, engines roaring, cannons firing point blank. The impact was glorious. Orks were torn apart in sprays of fire and scrap. One of their own vehicles, if you could call it that, lumbered forward, a crawling mountain of welded junk bristling with guns. A Russ put a shell straight through it. The explosion scattered Orks in every direction, wreckage raining down like shrapnel. We cheered. I think I did too. It didn't last. The Orks surged toward the tanks, not away from them. Fire concentrated. One ran forward clutching a bundle of explosives, laughing as last fire tore into him. He reached the tank and vanished in a blast that shook the street. Another followed, then another. The first Russ died screaming, its armor torn open, crew howling inside until the sound cut off. More tanks burned, the air filled with smoke and metal and screams layered so thick they blurred together. I saw an Ork beat one of my brothers to death with his bare hands, head smashed again and again until there was nothing left to recognize. Something broke inside me then, not panic, something quieter, like the part of me that believed this could still be held just, let go. The war boss returned. This time we saw him clearly. Hundreds of shots slammed into him. Last fire stitched his chest, his shoulders, his head. He staggered, but didn't slow. Rounds sparked and burned and vanished into armor and flesh that refused to fail. He roared once, a sound that seemed to pull the Orks forward with him. The line broke. Suddenly they were in front of us and behind us. No direction made sense anymore. Every way I turned, there were green shapes, red-streaked armor, teeth bared in joy. Brothers fell screaming, others fell silent. The ground turned slick beneath our boots. The city stopped being a place. It became a surface to be fought over, torn apart, painted red. I don't know how long it lasted after that. Minutes, hours, time lost meaning. All I know is that when I looked up again, the line was gone, and we were still alive only because the Orks had already found something more interesting to kill. The withdrawal order came late, tangled in static and half-spoken words. By then, most of us were already running, not because we were cowards, but because staying had stopped meaning anything. The fighting didn't stop when we pulled back. It just moved inward. Street by street, block by block, the line collapsed toward the inner districts, the last walls, the places that were never meant to see war. We fought the whole way, not because we believed we could win, but because stopping meant being caught, and being caught meant being torn apart while something laughed about it. I lost people on the way. Men I'd eaten with, joked with, trusted to watch my back. One went down covering a junction, firing until his rifle clicked empty, then fighting with the stock until they dragged him under. Another bled out in an access tunnel, hands shaking as he tried to reload, apologizing to no one in particular as the noise got closer. I was hit somewhere near the inner wall. I don't remember the impact, just the sudden weakness in my leg and the warmth spreading under my armor. I kept moving until I couldn't. I don't know why they didn't finish me. Maybe they didn't notice. Maybe I wasn't interesting enough. I made it to a collapsed hab block and stayed there. From the street below, I could hear the city tearing itself apart. Tank guns firing deeper in, echoing through the stone. Orc laughter rising and falling between impacts. Close enough that I could tell when they were enjoying themselves. Far enough that I knew they weren't coming for me. Not yet. At one intersection earlier, I had looked back. The war boss wasn't chasing us. He was already turning away, shouting at his own kind, striking one down for getting in his way. The Orks were fighting each other again, arguing over loot, over kills, over nothing that mattered to us anymore. That was the moment it settled in. We hadn't been defeated. We'd been ignored. Now I'm sitting against a broken wall, helmet off, Vox unit cracked but still recording. I can't walk. My pistol is in my right hand. It's heavy. It feels honest. In my left, I'm holding my wife's picked, edges dark with blood that isn't all mine. Her face is calm, unaware. I try to remember the sound of her voice. It's harder than it should be. I don't feel brave. I feel lucky. Lucky that I'm not screaming. Lucky that I'm not being torn apart for someone else's amusement. Lucky that, for now, I'm being ignored. The laughter carries through the ruins, steady and distant, like a storm that has decided where it wants to be. If anyone ever finds this, understand one thing. Preparation didn't fail us. Courage didn't fail us. Firepower didn't fail us. We just weren't what they were really here for.